Hello, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. Today we are going to be ranking all of the bronzers and highlighters I tried in 2023. So let's hop right into it. I tried 7 bronzers in 2023 and overall there really isn't a bad product in the bunch. So coming in at number 7 is the newest one I've tried out, and this is from Merit, and this is their Bronze Balm. So this is not a bad product by any means. I do quite like it. I think it's really nice. The packaging is nice. This is the shade Quince. And I find the shade a little bit warmer than I would typically like. This is also definitely a more sheer product, but because of that, it is super easy to blend out. I do prefer this on a more lighter makeup day, but if you are looking for a cream bronzer that is sheer and very easy to blend, I think you would really enjoy this. Just for me, it's kind of a shade issue. This is the lightest one they have. They don't have the best shade range. And while I do like a more buildable bronzer as opposed to a very heavily pigmented bronzer, this one is just a little bit more sheer than even I like. So for that reason, this one is at number 7, but again, it's not a bad product. I really did have a hard time ranking these products. So coming in at number 6 is from Makeup Revolution, and this is the Ultra Cream Bronzer, and I have the shade Light. So this one was incredibly popular this year. This is probably one of the very best cream bronzers at the drugstore. This is a beautiful product. This is very blendable, very easy to work with. You can see the shade is a little bit warm. I will say though, this one is heavily pigmented. So kind of the opposite of the Merit, this one is very heavily pigmented, so you might want to be careful if you have fair skin like I do, just going in with a light hand, because again, this is very pigmented. However, it is very blendable, very easy to work with, and I think the drugstore did a really good job with these. Coming in at number 5 is a product that is also wildly popular, but I only tried for the first time this year. This is the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Contour Wand, and I like this. It's not a bad product. I do have the fair to medium shade, so this is the shade. It looks really pretty. I just don't find this blends as easily as, say, her blushes in this formula do, or her highlighters in this formula. So this one isn't a bad product. I mean, I don't love this type of applicator. I also don't love that I spend a little bit more time blending than I would like. I think this is pretty. I think the shade is spot on. I really love that. I just think I spend a little bit more time blending than I would like. That being said, it's not horribly unblendable. It just takes a little bit longer than some other products. So that's why this one made number 5. Coming in at number 4 is from MAC. This is the Sunstruck Matte Bronzer in the shade Light Rosy. So this is what the packaging looks like. They did release a whole line of matte bronzers and radiant bronzers this year, and I loved this bronzer. I've used this so many times this year. I really do enjoy it. I love that it is one of those bronzers that is so friendly for very fair skin. This is a more buildable formula, so it starts out a little bit more sheer, but you can definitely build it. This shade is perfect. If you are like me and you are super fair and maybe you have a more pinky undertone, maybe you hate bronzers that pull warm or yellow, this will be amazing for you. I love this formula. I don't have a bad thing to say about it. I really don't. This is what that shade looks like. Perfect for those of us who don't want to be orange, but I've just really enjoyed this formula. I think they did such a great job, and I'm so glad MAC finally came out with a whole line of bronzers this year, because I feel like that was the one thing that they're really missing in their lineup, and now we have it. Speaking of brands that were missing a bronzer from their lineup, at number 3 we have Pat McGrath. This is the Divine Bronzer, and I have the shade Naked Desire. I also have Naked Honey in a face palette. I think she did a great job coming up with a range of shades for these, because these are beautiful and the tones are absolutely perfect. So this is the shade Naked Desire. This is a shade that is absolutely perfect for those of us who can't stand when bronzers pull warm and yellow. This is just such a beautiful blendable buildable formula, much like the MAC. Very, very similar. I love everything about this bronzer. I love how blendable it is. I love how easy it is to work with. I love that we finally have a Pat McGrath bronzer. I loved the embossment on their products as well. However, this one isn't in there quite as deep as the roses are on her blushes. I find that I kind of lost the embossment relatively quickly. However, I did use this a ton, so that could be why. I did love this bronzer, and I loved that there was a different shade in the face palette she came out with for holiday, because now I have 2 shades and I love that. The honey shade in that palette is a little bit more warm, and it is a tiny bit deeper, not by much, but it is a tiny bit deeper, but it is a little bit warmer than this. So if you are a match to my skin tone, Naked Desire is the perfect bronzer. Coming in at number 2 is from Westman Atelier, and this is the Face Trace Contour Stick. I do have a mini because this is so expensive. So I have the shade Biscuit, and this is what Biscuit looks like. So it is more of a contour shade. This cream bronzer is easily one of my favorites in my entire collection. This is probably one of the most buildable, blendable stick foundations. It's not too stiff where it's hard to blend, but it's also not creamy where it's slipping and sliding everywhere. It doesn't blend away, but it just adds the most perfect amount of pigment. It feels like it melts right into the skin. I mentioned this before, but I did a friend's wedding makeup back in September, and this is the contour I used on her, and it was so incredibly beautiful. Her skin tone is a little touch deeper than mine. Not by much, but a touch deeper, and this was absolutely incredible on her as well. I loved it so much. It looks so stunning on her. It looks great on me. I love it. This is such a beautiful shade. This is one I would absolutely repurchase if I use this up. And coming in at number 1 for bronzers is a bronzer that has been around for a really long time, but that I only tried this year, and this is from Fenty. This is the Sunstalker Instant Warmth Bronzer in the shade Into Sun. So I finally tried this year. I believe this is one my husband picked out for me, and I love this bronzer. So I do have quite a dip out of the center. I've pretty much completely lost the embossment in the middle as well. I use this so much like the MAC and the Pat McGrath. This is the perfect tone for those of us with very fair skin. So this is what the shade looks like on this one. Again, super beautiful, super easy to work with, so nice and neutral. It never pulls yellow, it's not too warm, and it's a little bit more on the sheer side, so it's not going to be too much on fair skin. And the way it just blends out, it's like an airbrush type product. It is so beautiful. This is probably the easiest powder bronzer I have ever worked with. So I have really loved this one. This one has definitely become very special in my collection this year. So let's talk about the highlighters I tried this year. So I tried 5 different highlighter formulas. Coming in at number 5 is from Makeup by Mario, and this is the Soft Glow Highlighter in Opal. So this one was also not released this year, but it was new to me, and this is an incredibly icy highlight. Incredibly icy. So I'll show you a quick swatch. So I don't even need to put this one up to the camera for you. This is so icy, and I like it. It's just that it does seem to have a little bit of a sparkle to it, which is just not something I'm going for lately. I think it's pretty. It's just you have to really want this super icy highlight. There are a few in this ranking that are very icy. It's just that this one seems to me that it's a little bit more glittery than some of the others, whereas some of the others are icy but a little bit more smooth. So for that reason, I put this one at number 5, but once again, there really isn't any bad highlighters that I tried. Coming in at number 4 is from Tarte, and this is their Glow Tape. So Tarte was obviously coming for Charlotte Tilbury this year. This one is in the shade Pearl Glow, and this one is really pretty, not at all sparkly, but you can see how beautiful and shiny and reflective that is. I really have enjoyed this one. The thing is, I just don't reach for these as often as I would like. I really do tend to gravitate toward my powder highlights. I have definitely gotten into highlighters so much more this year. I feel like I took a break from them when everybody else did, and now I'm getting right back into them. So I love that I'm getting into it because I do love highlight, but I just don't reach for this type of formula. That being said, sometimes I do like this. Sometimes I do want to be a little bit more glowy. And in the winter months, I am very dry skinned, so sometimes I do tend to reach for those more cream products, and that's where I would end up going for something a little bit more like this. So I definitely think this has a place in my collection. It will definitely get use. It's just not a product I reach for that often. However, the shade is absolutely stunning. I love how smooth it is. It's very shiny, very glowy, and it really is a beautiful product, and they did a great job with the formula. Coming in at number 3 is another highlighter formula that did not release this year, but I tried for the first time. This is from Pat McGrath, and this is the Divine Glow Highlighter, and this one is in the shade Lunar Allure. So I have tried her highlighter formula before in a face palette, but this is the first time trying one in a shade that really works for my skin tone. I really do like this. So this is another one that is a little bit more icy. So still very icy, not as bad as the Makeup by Mario, but also just smoother. It doesn't have glitter particles in it, but it is still such a shiny product. So this one is definitely smoother than the Makeup by Mario. It isn't going to feel like you're putting glitter on your cheeks, but it is definitely going to give you a high shine effect. So if you don't like a blinding highlight, I would pass on these. However, this is a gorgeous, gorgeous formula. That being said, do I recommend paying the $40 or $50 she charges for these? No. Wait for a 30% off sale and get a good deal. On one of those sales, I think it's 100% worth it. She does have those sales all the time, so I would wait for one of those, buying anything from Pat McGrath, basically. But I do really love this highlight formula. I'm not sure if you can tell, but my packaging is actually quite messy because I do reach for this a lot. Coming in at the number 1 and 2 slots are both highlighters that I love and that released at the very tail end of last year, like after Christmas last year. So coming in at number 2 is from Rare Beauty, and this is their highlighter. This one is in the shade Enlighten. This one is one I didn't get when it initially came out, but I did end up picking it up. This is also a very intense, very blinding highlight, but it's stunning. I really do like this formula. This one is, like I said, very, very intense. This is actually what I'm wearing today. So if you can see that, this is what I'm wearing. Like I said, very intense, but so, so beautiful. It's got a bit of a unique texture to it too. When you push on it, it almost feels spongy, kind of like the MAC Glow Play blushes, if you've ever pushed in on those. This one is a little bit more dry and powder-like, but it has a very similar sort of consistency. It's very interesting. I really do like this formula though. I think this is such a pretty highlight. If you don't like an intense highlight, definitely stay away from these. But I think it's an incredible formula. Coming in at the number 1 spot is one I actually have in 2 shades, and I reviewed at the very beginning of the year. This is from Charlotte Tilbury. This is the Hollywood Glow Glide Face Architect Highlighter. So the first one I have is Moonlit Glow, and this is the one I reviewed initially. So I'll show you what this one looks like. So definitely very shiny. You can see it's definitely going to have an impact, but this one is going to lean a lot more, I don't want to say natural, but it's going to be a lot softer. I also have the shade Pillow Talk, which I acquired recently. And this one is definitely more of a pinky shade. This one can be great as a blush topper, but you could also just use it as a highlight and it melts beautifully into the blush. It makes a very seamless transition. And I initially thought this shade would be too deep for me, but somehow it works. The one thing I don't like about this formula is the way the product spins in the pan. I think that really cheapens the product. However, this highlighter is so good that I'm willing to overlook that. This highlighter is so beautiful. This is one that is not too intense. You can definitely build it up to be very intense, or you can just go in with a little bit to get a little bit of a glow. The reason I love this so much is because this is one that's going to be great on all different skin types and textures. So if you have more mature skin, this is the one that is going to be the easiest to work with. It's going to be the most flattering. It's just so incredibly smooth. It's absolutely beautiful. I feel like this one was specifically designed with different skin textures in mind. This is absolutely beautiful. I love this formula. Sophisticated is the word that comes to mind when I'm thinking about this highlight. So I feel like this one is just the very, very best formula. It's so smooth. You can build it to varying degrees of glow, but overall it's just incredibly flattering and beautiful on the skin, and I really do love this one. But that is it. Those are all of the bronzers and highlighters I tried in 2023. Let me know down below what your favorites were. I love hearing from you guys so much. If you're new here, I hope you'll consider subscribing before you go. I do upload at least 3 new videos every single week. Thank you again so very much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!